You're about to see how players of different strength calculate variations and what you can do to get your chess to the next level. It is black to play, and if you want to take it seriously, you can pause the video, decide the best move for black, write it down in the comments below, and after that you'll resume the video and we'll think about that together. Alright, the first thing that comes to mind is that your knight right here on d4 is attacked. And most players in such situations simply retreat the knight back somewhere to c6. But it's actually a very interesting opportunity for you to see exactly how you can level up. I've been coaching for the last 15 years, and I can see that there are clear patterns of thinking between different rating levels. And I can also share with you how I think as a grandmaster so that you can easily see those 5 distinctive features of stronger players. Alright, so there we go with the tip number 1. Strong players go forward, and weak players go backward. Now, the move knight to c6, yes, it saves your knight, but the downside is it doesn't put any pressure onto your opponent, and therefore after that your opponent is free to do whatever he wants and he can keep attacking you. Now, instead, strong players know that it is usually better to move forward. For example, the knight, if attacked, can go somewhere here. It is a move forward, it attacks the rook. Now, it cannot just play any random move, they have to do something about the rook, and after that, for example, you can continue jumping with the knight forward and use this pin and keep attacking. You see how better the situation is for you now. That said, it's not the strongest move in the position. Alright, let's move on. Now, there is another thing which is also extremely common, especially if you're below 1300, you're gonna face this mistake and maybe make this mistake all the time. It is called hope chess. In a position like that, some players that are trickier may decide, okay, I'm going to let him capture my knight, and instead I'm going to play here, and as he captures my knight, I'm going to checkmate him. Now, certainly that would be great, but there is an obvious downside. Your move rook h8 pretty much clearly indicates that you want to checkmate him on h2, and it is somewhat strange to assume that your opponent would not notice the reason behind this move, because it's literally the only reason for the move rook h8, and it threatens checkmate in 1. So most likely he will notice and will play h3, and then you'll be upset. You will then have to move the knight backwards, plus you moved your rook out of this really great active position to a much more passive position right now, and now white's position is in fact pretty normal. I don't know if you thought about this position originally, but if you did, I hope that you also noticed the move knight to c2, which forks the queen and rook. Now, this is a relatively obvious idea, but the obvious problem is there is the white bishop that controls the square and can capture the knight. So this is something that most chess players would notice. However, those who are stronger would probably be able to calculate it one step further and to notice that the white bishop is actually pinned down to the queen, and therefore white can't move it that easily. Now, here we can see 2 chess tactical motifs known as a fork from a knight and a pin by your rook. And it is not a coincidence that we have these 2 tactical motifs, because they are actually by far the most common tactical motifs of all. I played thousands of chess games, and I doubt that I used something like, a staircase or a skewer too often. I prefer a sun lounge and a cocktail. Anyways, you got the point, right? So knowing tactical motifs definitely help. Even though I would say that people often exaggerate the importance of solving tactical drills, because there are a lot of players with huge discrepancy between their puzzle rating and their actual rating. Alright, anyways, so what do you do after knight to c2? Does it mean that black just wins the game because they are going to capture something on the next turn? No, we need to calculate it through. The general rule states that you need to calculate till the end of the forcing variation. So we need to keep calculating right here. White will probably need to move their queen. Where should it go? Just like we discussed before that you need to calculate forward moves of your pieces, you gotta apply the same logic for your opponent. We don't really care if your opponent plays some passive meaningless moves deep into his territory. They're not dangerous. We should only worry about his active forward attacking moves, and those are the moves that we need to check. So here white's got the move queen e2, and after knight to a1 looks like black is winning, but all of a sudden white has one more pretty cool forward move, which is queen to a6, making use of the pin. Once again, the same tactical motif, and then after the king moves out of check, queen takes b7 comes with a checkmate. Besides the idea of moving forward, which is very helpful, there is also one more guideline. It is looking for forcing moves. Forcing moves are checks, captures, and attacking moves. These are simply the moves that force a particular response from your opponent. And it's great for you because it means that your opponent cannot just do whatever he wants, but he has to play the move that you provoked. Alright, so let's think about this for a second. What are the forced moves that black can play here? And you gotta think about all of the forced moves at least for a second, because even if they look absurd at first, if they do work, they have the potential to win the game on the spot. Therefore, it makes sense to consider them, at least quickly. So here, for instance, do we have any checks? Alright, there's queen takes h2, but he just captures, and there's nothing there. What else? You've got knight e2, he's gonna capture, you've got knight f3, he cannot actually capture with the bishop because we know that the bishop is pinned down to the queen. So after knight f3, he's gonna capture with a pawn. And there's something a little bit nice for us there, because in this case, it's a check, at least he opens up his king. And we can keep thinking about this and keep looking for ideas and what we can do here. And actually, all of a sudden, there is a move rook to h8, and white has no defense against the simple queen takes h2 checkmate. Because the pawn chain is disrupted, he can't just play h3 and protect the pawn. Now there is basically no defense. Alright, so that means that for white, it was better not to go in this direction, but after knight f3 check, if I take it back, it was better to just take it right here, giving up the queen, and basically we traded a rook and a knight for a queen, which is a material advantage for us, and now objectively speaking, black is winning, but it's still not totally over. It is still requires, some technique to convert it into a win. Now we found a nice idea, but it's not the solution. Now, we were talking about forced moves, checks, captures, attack, and moves. And we've been talking about checks, but how about captures? We also have this capture, rook takes e4. Now, your opponent is going to recapture, and now, of course, we still need to calculate till the end of the forcing line. So it does make sense, once again, to think about the position for a second to see if you have any attacking forward moves that can potentially create threats. And if you think about that, you may notice the move knight to g3, which looks paradoxical at first, but then at some point you realize that, yeah, we open up this attack, right? And the knight is here pretty aggressive, but if he captures the queen, there is this absolutely miracle checkmate. Well, miracle from your standpoint. From white perspective, it's a nightmare. Anyways, looks really, really cool. Now, what else can happen here? Let's take it back. He can't just take our knight because that would drop his queen. That would be pretty good for us, right? We would probably win after that. What else can he play? He can capture here, and now we are losing this knight on d4, but we have this fork. Once again, we've got a fork. This time to the king and queen. The king is in check, it has to move, and now you can win the queen and the game, right? This brings us to famous Lascaux's rule. When you see a good move, look for a better one. Simply put, it stresses the importance of candidate moves. Instead of having this tunnel vision where you see one move that looks appealing and you only think about that one, instead you first consider all the candidate moves that are available in the position, and then you decide. Maybe you already noticed the move. It is queen takes h2, which is much stronger and wins the game on the spot. That is Anastasia's checkmate. Here the knight takes out these two squares and therefore white can give up the queen, but after that it is nevertheless a checkmate. Now, don't be discouraged if you could not find all these variations by yourself. That is quite complex. My goal was just to show you different patterns of thinking between players of different rating levels so that you can see that there is no mystery in chess progress. There are certain patterns of thinking for higher rated players, and if you adopt them and train them, you'll be there just as well. And for your simplicity, if you are interested in that, I've put together everything that you need in order to get your chess to the next level, about opening, middle game, end game, strategy, basically everything in one course called Level Up Your Chess. And if you wish, you can click the link below the video and check this out. Either way, have a great rest of the day and take care.